Hi, everyone. This is Steve Delisine, and welcome to this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know. I am joined by Darren MacDonald, the CEO of Tonal. Thank you for being with us, Darren.
Good morning, Steve.
Super excited to dive into a conversation, learn a little bit about your background, and of course, more about Tonal.
Great.
So why don't we kick it off? You have a very impressive career journey. We were talking before we jumped on. You were at Petco, you're at Jet.com, and now officially the CEO of Tonal. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what drew you to Tonal and what made you want to take on that role as CEO?
Sure. Yeah. So I've always worked in consumer across all the businesses that I've ever worked at. So consumer is like a major thread through my life, but I've always been very interested in athletics and fitness, personal fitness. So, and in particular, strength training. So sometimes I get on the treadmill, sometimes I don't, but I think through my whole career has been, or my whole life has been lifting weights. So I was actually an owner of the product before I joined the company and fell in love with it. So once I made the commitment to buy the product, I just loved the thing. And then when
That's
they came
awesome.
calling, it was super easy for me to take the job.
Yeah, you're a believer in the brand immediately.
100%.
How has that helped you? Having that personal experience, that personal perspective, really changed how you approach the fitness industry now as CEO?
Well, number one, loving the product the way that I did. If you just look at our business, the product itself has enormously high NPS scores. It's higher than any business I've ever operated in. If you look at the retention rates too, it's incredible. And it's not surprising to me because I was using the product and fell in love with it and use it all the time. And the way that it changes your body was really, really dramatic for me. So, again, when I decided to join the company, it was I think I can have an impact bringing this to a lot more people and helping other people to experience the same sort of feelings that I get, in terms of how your body evolves, how it changes, how you get stronger, how it improves your mental stability. It's an incredible product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For those that are not familiar with
Sure.
Tonal, can you share what makes it unique, a little bit about the product itself?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few things. Number one, it's in your home, it's on your wall. So it's
Okay.
super easy to access. Number two, we have the ability to do 4 exercises to calibrate you. So once you do that calibration, you get access to over 250 exercises. Number three, we think we've got the best coaches in the world as well who guide you through amazing workouts. I think a lot of other companies probably have something similar to that or some variant, although we think we're way better from a technology perspective. I think the thing that really sets us apart is the fact that we have predictive weight technology. So we take all the mental load off of how much weight should I do? How many reps should I do? We know personalized to you in particular how much weight you should be lifting and how many reps you'll be able to do. And so because of that, we can make little adjustments in 1 pound increments that really kind of keep you at the ability to just lift more and more weight. So you get stronger faster with lower mental load. It's
That's
really,
awesome.
really cool product.
How do you guys find that out?
How do we predict it?
Yeah.
The calibration process,
Okay.
you basically do 4 exercises, think push, pull, legs, upper body. And then because of that, we know what your strength profile looks like. And we can figure out where you burn out, what's
Yep.
your 1 rep max. And then we can tailor each workout based on the number of reps, based on what you're able to do in that one
That's
kind of
awesome.
calibration session. Yeah, it's really powerful.
Very, very cool. So obviously a fan of the product. So
Yeah.
that's an advantage going in as a CEO, but also your experience, right? You've led a lot of customer-focused teams in the past, like we
Yeah.
mentioned with Petco.
Yeah.
What are some of those customer-centric initiatives that you're going to bring and implement now at Tonal?
Sure. Yeah. The way I think about this is you just have to look at the full customer journey, right? So you have to look at what happens early in the process as you're sort of a prospective buyer through the process of purchasing. So, apply that to a place like Tonal. You think about what's the way that we help engage with the product and give you the information you need to start the consideration phase. Once you purchase, obviously we want to make the installation process as simple as possible. So we're working on refining that and making that even better process with better communication, more updates with you. After it's installed, obviously we want to teach you about the thing. So unlike a treadmill or a bike where it's pretty obvious what you do, there's something a little bit different about working out with a machine, a cable machine, right? So
Sure.
we have to educate you on what is chains mode, right? So when you get to higher up in your rep, obviously we want to add more weight. That's what chains mode is, or eccentric mode, which is going to give you more weight on the eccentric phase.
Mhm.
So there's an education process that goes with that too. We want to make sure that we're educating people better on that. And then obviously getting you into programs, we want to do a better job of ensuring that you're in a 4-week program, where you're working out multiple times a week. And then if you want to relocate it, obviously, people move, right? They change locations. We want to help improve that phase as well. So I just think about it as a linear journey and
sure.
look at each individual moment and try to improve across those.
Yeah, from start to finish. How can you
Exactly.
make the consumer's life a little bit easier
right.
and more effective?
That's right.
So I know your mission statement is to strengthen everybody every day.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how that mission statement really strengthens and shapes the culture of the company?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you just think about like the near term, the easier stuff, if you will, like our coaches are the face of our company. We have 7 incredible coaches that all appeal to slightly different demographics. And every day, I think they show up trying to get people healthier and live better lives. If you go a little bit beyond that, we have a performance team, like literally people who coach Olympic athletes, and they're working on developing features that allow people to do things that they couldn't otherwise do. So
That's awesome.
we just released Tonal 2, which I'm happy to tell you about later, but one of the features is this thing called drop sets. So drop sets, basically you get to right to the point you're about to burn out, and then we lower the weight so you can do more. And then right when you're about to burn out, we lower the weight even more. Well, yeah, it takes 4 people inside of a gym to do, but with Tonal, you can just do it without anybody. And so that sort of innovation mentality about developing those kind of features, I think is really at the heart of what we do. And then you go to engineering and marketing. We want to get this product out to the masses because it really does change people's lives. So,
That's awesome.
everybody lives, eats, and breathes that.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers behind just
Yeah.
the trainers, it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
great. So I know we talked about your obviously love for the product, your background in the consumer-facing industry, but I know you also have a really strong background when it comes to digital experience.
Yeah.
How have you utilized that experience in particular with this new role?
Well, one of the things that we really focus on is just creating awareness for the product. I mean, we think that once people actually purchase it, like myself included, you fall in love with it. And that's evidenced by we have greater than 90% retention rate. So,
Awesome.
more than 90% of people after 1 year are still using the product, which is the best in the industry. So for me, it's like we've got this amazing product that everybody needs to know about because they really fall in love with the thing.
Yep.
So when I think about digital experience, it's like, how do I tell that story digitally? Everything from like awareness and marketing to the content, and really help people to understand what that product looks like. And so, that's a lot of what my background was. And I think a lot of what the challenges for me here is to just like, how do you explain this piece of hardware that sits on your wall in a way that you look at on a web page?
Yeah, for sure. 90% is very impressive.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yeah.
Think about all the people that are joining the gym right now and then drop off after the start of the year. So that's incredible.
I think
to be
it's
able to
today.
lock them in.
I think it's tomorrow is like National Quitters Day or something like that,
Already?
which is like 10 days into the year.
Yeah.
Like the most like people are like, okay, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just super powerful. Like I don't know every company's retention rates, but the ones that we know about, like we're in excess of all. Like we do
Yeah.
such a good job of holding on to people.
That's incredible. So you mentioned this earlier about innovation, right? And
Yeah.
about constantly trying to improve the product,
Mhm.
to improve the consumer's journey. What is your strategy in the weeks, the months, the years to come to make sure that Tonal is at the cutting edge of fitness technology?
Yeah. Well, actually yesterday we just launched Tonal 2, which is, over 2,000 days since Tonal 1. And so we're developing new features that are coming to life with this. So for example, we've innovated around the internals of the machine. So we've made them more reinforced. Our cables are stronger, the shoulder joints, the wrist
cool.
joints. So now we go from 200 to 250 pounds, right? So for people who want to lift heavier, that's an important innovation. We've improved our motor control board, which now allows you to do an aerobic mode alongside just doing traditional resistance. So you can now do aerobic and resistance. I talked to you about drop sets, which is really important. And then we also added a camera to the machine, which is really, really cool. So now you get form feedback. So if you're doing squats and it's a heavier weight and your knee is turning in, we'll tell you at the end of the workout that, hey, like you've got some form things that you should work on, and here's how you can address that. So
That's great.
we're constantly innovating on things to bring new value to our members as they exist today, but also help us to capture more people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that makes you guys different is your individualized approach to each consumer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure the camera's one element of it.
Yeah.
How else have you really helped different individuals that purchase Tonal make every workout personalized and really part of their fitness journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great question. It's the thing that I love most about Tonal is that we can tell you exactly what your weight should be. So while I might be doing an exercise at 71 pounds, maybe you're at 74 pounds. And as you lift and as you get stronger, we will augment what that weight amount is for that exercise to kind of keep you on that efficient frontier. So, what's really powerful for us is like people are getting stronger faster. It's a more efficient workout. And again, you think about something like drop sets now. We ran a study with Florida Atlantic University. People are getting stronger, building muscle up to 2 times faster than traditional methods. So when you think about somebody just going to the gym and grabbing dumbbells and sort of throwing them up, like it's effective, right? But it's not nearly as effective as it could be. So you can work out much more efficiently with something like Tonal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that helps segue into my next question,
Yeah.
right? So I know one thing that you guys really prioritize is the safety and the wellness of the people that purchase the product,
That's
right?
right.
How does the technology help people prevent from training injuries? Just like you said earlier, people go to the gym. Sometimes they excel way too high, or their form's wrong, or they're CrossFit and they get
Yeah.
an injury while training, right?
Right.
How have you guys utilized different technologies to make sure that those individuals using the product are safe?
Sure. Well, I think the first one is the predictive weight. We don't throw too much weight at you where you're going to hurt yourself, and that's a really big deal. We also have some features that allow you to control the weight by way of pressing a button on or off, which allows you to if you need to get the weight off, you can. We also have certain weight modes that if you're really struggling, think about a bench press, right?
Mhm.
Like if you decided you want to do a lift like that, people get hurt and they end up kind of dropping the weight, and it's a problem. If we see you struggling for more than 5 seconds, we'll turn the weight off.
That's great.
If we see that you're struggling too much, we might actually lower the weight within the reps so that you're not, faced with any sort of injury. If you move the bar, one side higher than the other, the weight goes off as well. And then I just think our coaching, and the programming that we put together, like we work out really safely. The last thing I'll say about this, which is really, really cool, is we actually have personal trainers that have just bought, this is like sort of not even us promoting this in any way, but personal trainers buying the product, putting 6 of them on a wall, then running group classes together.
That's awesome.
And they promote it as like the most safe way to work out. So, evidence is sort of out there
Yeah.
amongst our, amongst the people
Fitness
out there in the world,
industry,
fitness
yeah,
industry that this
100%.
is really, really safe.
So you guys have obviously changed the at-home industry, right? Like
Yeah.
at-home fitness industry. How do you feel like you're getting more and more consumers to work out at home opposed to going to the traditional gym?
Well, number one, I think we're just paddling into this wave of like people that are doing strength and resistance training. There are so many people out there, like obviously the Hubermans and the Peter Attias and those out there, but even more than that, people are recognizing the power that strength training has for your overall fitness journey. It's not about getting on a treadmill and
Yep.
just crushing yourself, and like that's an insufficient workout. And people are also recognizing that like you need to be building muscle up through 50 because you should anticipate you're going to be losing approximately 1% of muscle post 50. So you want to build and then maintain that. And so that combination of both resistance training as well as cardio is really kind of the most effective workout possible. So for us, it's really just about a building awareness of resistance training and strength training as like a really important piece of the puzzle.
It's awesome. So let's talk about a little personal, right?
Yeah.
I know that family is very important to you, and I
Mm.
always love asking guests this
Yeah.
because I think it's something that everybody really struggles with. How do you balance the demands of being a CEO with your personal life and obviously staying active with your family at home too?
Yeah. I mean, I think about it in terms of big rocks and sand, like there's just certain things that you have to prioritize and they're non-negotiables, and family is definitely one for me. I have 3 kids. Like I lots of people say this, I actually really live it. Like I love my kids and I love hanging out with them. So I actually build my year at the beginning of the year, like you would do in a business context, and say like, what are the things that I want to do for me and my family? They go on a calendar and they don't move.
Mhm.
Which doesn't mean that I can't be, dynamic about
For
things
sure.
that I want to add and build in around that. But, for me, I just want to make sure that, at the end of the day, I'm not like big on my own personal business legacy. I don't really care much about that, to be honest, but I want to raise good humans and
Yep.
I want to be a good husband and all of those things. So, I just put prioritization around that.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the opportunities, the different upside. Let's talk a little bit about the flip side, right?
Mm.
What are some of the challenges you might see ahead for the fitness industry, and how do you guys plan to combat those challenges?
Yeah. Well, that's like broader retail, I would say, we've had this big wave kind of, I would say in the last 6 years, there's been more consumer change than in the previous 50. And COVID was just such a massive shock to the system. So people, they bought fitness equipment that went in their home, and
Yep.
then, stores opened back up and gyms opened back up and a lot of people went back. I think allowing people to understand that they're going to make an investment in a piece of equipment that is going to provide value to them over the longer term. And for many people, it will drive greater utilization for them. Like getting the word out around that and making sure people understand that is really kind of the number one, challenge for our industry. Because there is, a traditional method of people just, want to go be social inside of a gym, but they don't understand that, when you got to go wait around, when it's intimidating, right? And you got gym bros all around and, and you can't get a trainer to help you, that
Yep.
there really is a meaningful benefit to having a piece of equipment like a tonal trainer in their home. So our challenge is to overcome that by just creating greater awareness and getting more people to try the product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking ahead at the industry, how do you feel that the industry itself is going to evolve, piggybacking off of that? And how do you feel Tonal is going to continue to be the most innovative within that space?
Well, number one, like I said, I mean, I think there's a major sea change happening in how people think about fitness right now, where resistance training and strength training is just like, it's the fastest growing segment of women's exercise right now. So people are now getting it, men and
Understanding it,
women,
yeah.
that it's a really important thing for us. So for them. So our goal really is to just stay in front of that however possible and let them know that we think we've got the premier product in the category. There are lots of people who are sort of biting at our heels, and I think it's going to be important for us to continue to innovate, to improve the product like we did yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We want to do even more of that. And then beyond that, we'll probably start looking at adjacencies as well. That could be interesting categories and markets for us to take what we think is a great product into those areas as well.
That's awesome. So Tonal 2 is out now, right?
Yeah.
What's next? What else is on the horizon after that?
Well, we're going to want to continue to innovate around software experiences, right? I think there's more work for us to do on giving consumers feedback on like, hey, here's the progress that you've made. Here's how your body has changed. Here's what your muscle readiness looks like. You should be hitting it hard today, or this should be a recovery day. Creating that like depth of engagement, I think, is super important for us for the next, kind of phase. And I think beyond that, we're going to continue to develop hardware. We're going to continue to develop products that we think are easy for people to install, to work out with, that they love. And as I said before, I think there's lots of adjacencies that we can go into. Again, I don't see any reason, because we're seeing this pop up, why personal trainers wouldn't have a series of these on their walls
100%.
and do group fitness classes. We just opened up a studio in Soho this week.
Oh, that's
It's
awesome.
a pop-up. We want to learn what that looks like. So actually doing group fitness together, we think is a place that we should be sort of sailing as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I always love asking my guests this at the end of the interview. What is one piece of advice for anyone tuning in right now that is just about to start their journey, just about to enter really the business field?
Well, look, I've like strongly held point of view on this. Okay. Number one, maybe number 1, 2, and 3 is you have to be excited about the thing you want to go do. If you aren't excited to get out of bed in the morning to go do the thing, you're not thinking about the right thing. So I think really understanding in the back of your head, what are your kind of core motivations and the things that excite you? I think that's really important to understand. If you get that right and you really understand where you want to be, I think the next thing is to look at, a high growth business, one that's growing fast that you want to go attach yourself to, and then articulating, what are the things that you're good at? What do you want to do? And how do you provide value to that company are super important. And then the last piece of advice I always give people is like, I think it's very important to find a manager that's got your back, somebody that provides sort of, not only like physical safety and trust, but also like they're going to be a steward of your career as well. They're going to help advance you. So if you can get those things right, like I think you set your career up really, really well.
That's awesome. Well, we talked about 1 and 2 because you definitely have passion for the product.
Yeah.
What about number 3? Is there anyone that helped influence your career throughout the way?
Gosh, I had all kinds of people. Yeah. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate to work for some awesome people. Mark Laurie at Jet. I've worked for a handful of people, even in smaller companies that just showed up early, recognized that if I worked really hard, that they would reward me. And so that's just been an ethos that I've grabbed from them. And I think that that's, from a leadership perspective, something that people who work on my teams, super important to them.
I'm sure you're playing it forward now in your current role.
100%. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we covered a lot. We talked a little bit about you, obviously the company.
Yeah.
Is there anything we might have missed that you want our listeners to know?
Oh boy. Yeah, I guess, for me, just as a, a human being who operates in the business sphere, like I think what's really important to get really effective performance out of yourself, which would span across things like, your family, your personal relationships, and your business career, is oscillating amongst things that are hard and bring you joy. So if you just go grind at work all day, kind of like 6 to 12 every day, you will burn out.
100%.
So if you don't take the time to go sort of like do things that you enjoy, things that bring you sort of personal joy over time, like being the warrior that shows up in the office first and is, the last one to leave every day, it'll grind you into the ground. And so I just think it's important to have balance in your life. You want to be passionate. You want to work hard if you want to do a good job in business. But I would just offer the advice that for people, you have to go do other things so that you can be the best version of yourself.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
If someone tuned in today, they want to learn more about Tonal,
Yeah.
what's the first step?
First step, I would go check out the website. That's a fantastic resource to understand what the product is, what the business is, who it's good for. People who might be taking GLP-1s who are losing muscle in many cases faster than they are losing, fat. People who are active agers, people who want to be good athletes, people who are fighting the dad bod. Like it's a great resource for people to understand what the overall product looks like. I would direct people there for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming in,
Thanks
for
for
sharing
having
your
me.
journey, telling us a little bit more about the company. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Tune in next week for next week's edition of CEOs You Should Know.